I hope you folks have some faith of the heart, because once again, we're in Season 1 of Star Trek Enterprise. I was kind of surprised that this one won the Patreon poll, considering it was up against such classics as the Chef Riker finale and the one where Archer says Trip was responsible for a suicide because he taught a slave how to read. But I suppose it's hard to resist the premise of the crew fighting a monster that looks like, yeah. Fittingly enough, the B-plot of this one was followed up on in A Night in Sickbay, thus bringing things back to my first ever Trek review. However, this time I have better audio. But before we jump into the play-by-play, I want to begin with a brief overview.
On an all-new Enterprise, something's got a hold of the ship.
We need to neutralize it quickly.
Weapons system. And it won't let go. Captain! An all-new Enterprise. Get out of here! Go!
The Enterprise unwittingly boards a piece of a symbiotic alien species, which proceeds to snatch members of the crew into its tendrils in an attempt to connect. While they're in real danger, the organism isn't trying to attack them. This creature is stranded, suddenly alone when all it knows is how to be part of a larger whole. When it's finally returned to its homeworld, the reunion is beautiful and haunting. Here's the thing though, it looks like jizz. It's a big pile of space semen. The whole time, I cannot think of anything but the fact it looks like the entire ship has been splooged on. Surely someone noticed this, but I cannot be the only one who thought, this creature design is unfortunate. There's one point where Mayweather is forced to describe this thing, and it's like, I feel like the character is internally screaming the entire time because he's trying to think of any other way to describe it than a big pile of nut juice.
Describe this organism.
Well, it's big. It's like a giant...
What happened? What happened? Well, after digging deeper into it, it turns out a lot happened. And I'll dive into that. But for now, let's see the episode exactly as presented in 2002. Fire the rockets and let's go!
Captain Starlog Supplemental. I'm beginning to wonder if inviting the Cretaceans aboard was such a good idea.
They wouldn't even let my dog piss all over their sacred trees. But luckily, I can be as terrible to them as I want, and it will never come back to bite me in the ass. Well, the Cretaceans are offended by something, and they're out. Presumably, Archer invited them to an awkward punishment dinner, which is where all crewmen are sent whenever they displease him. If they think this first contact is bad, just wait until their second.
I think they want to leave. That much is obvious.
Silence to Paul!
Anywho, as their official translator, Hoshi is trying to figure out what exactly went wrong during the conversation. I'll spoil it now, they think eating in public is offensive. Get your laughs out, folks! As usual, the one right person is T'Pol.
For all we know, it was Mr. Tucker's table manners that offended them.
What's this about my table manners? Okay, yeah, this is great. Trip has to ask T'Pol if it's safe to go in and talk to Pissy Pants Archer. What a wonderful way to run your ship. This is a great time to remind everyone that Archer is a trained diplomat. Vulcans were mean to my dad.
It better be important.
Prime rib tonight.
Silence, Trip!
Before Trip is torn a new butthole for, breathing southernly, he offers to placate Captain Archer with the blandest of his bland interests. A water polo recording. Captain Archer states that the water polo pool is deep enough that the players can't stand. In fact, a standard depth for a water polo pool is 6 feet. It is common for men's water polo teams to recruit players tall enough to stand in that depth.
And I thought it was just a bunch of guys screwing around in a pool.
Please don't put me in a big juice tub and let that monster doctor put lizard parts in my brain. Well, Hoshi's translator said something about eating, and the Cretaceans didn't get offended until they arrived at the mess hall, but detectives Mayweather and Reed just can't seem to figure out what the problem was. This is one of the few episodes where Mayweather gets to say anything other than his name, so I'll give him a pass, but I kind of feel like Security Officer Reed should have at least one clue in his head. I mean, how clueless is he? It takes him a solid 15 seconds to realize fuzzy security footage isn't a movie.
This is all wrong.
Meanwhile, engineer Rostov is talking to Grammy and Tony Award-winning actress Renee Elise Goldsberry as Jay Kelly. Only one of these characters appears more than once, and it's not Jay Kelly. To be fair to Rostov, though, the guy who played him, Joseph Will, was apparently second runner-up for the role of Trip. Not that either character is terribly important, however, as they're here to become jizz fodder.
Water polo!
And I thought it was just a bunch of guys screwing around in a pool.
Water polo interrupted! That's not the final creature design, right?
Leave. Crewman?
I have a name, you know.
Silence, crewman!
Tell everyone that Vulcans were mean to my dad!
No, I'm not paid for lines, and I'm certainly not paid to get attacked by space seamen.
No! I'm coming, Captain! I saved the day. Well, that went swimmingly. Hopefully they don't have to depend on history's greatest monster, Phlox, to do some investigating.
Yes, incredible. I've never seen a singular sperm quite this size. I wonder if it has nerve endings and how prolonged torture will affect it.
And how will that help us to free the captain and our crew?
The what now?
Okay, so according to Phlox, this is an intelligent life form. If that's the case, Hoshi thinks she may be able to determine some way to communicate with it. Everyone else, however, agrees the logical thing to do would be to kill the shit out of it. As they're discussing just how to go about this, Phlox, unprompted, helpfully suggests an effective way to harm this creature they know nothing about. If anyone knows immediately the best way to maim something, it's Dr. Phlox. Anyway, how are things going for the Splooge crew?
Captain, you can't see the zipper on the back of my jizz suit, right? Shut up, Trip. Okay, thank you, Captain.
Your solution appears to be hurting our people, Doctor.
Of course, what's the problem?
After another fine job by the Enterprise, it seems Archer, Trip, the Professor, and Marianne are stuck in the giant skeet blanket for now. Reed recognizes that if he kills the creature, he'll kill them, and that's just too much paperwork. I guess they'll go with Hoshi's dumb idea.
Daddy, I'll protect you from the Vulcans. Damn folks. Got that right, Captain.
Actually, what's happening in this scene is sillier than that. Okay, so they've established by now that this creature is absorbing everyone into itself because it's a symbiotic organism. It needs to be connected to something. Thus, everyone stuck in the splooge is slowly becoming one, even beginning to know each other's thoughts. How do they express this? With water polo facts, of course.
Texas goalie can't block to his right because he keeps his hands too deep.
How do you know that?
Know it too. I don't understand anything about water polo.
And I thought it was just a bunch of guys screwing around in a pool.
Must not communicate with other life forms. Only force aliens to like Earth stuff. Trip, quick, tell me about how I won the regionals in high school.
Senior year, North American regionals against Princeton.
Yes, give it to me. That's the stuff. I love you, Captain. That was the creature, not me. Oh, shut up. We're psychically linked. We know it was you.
Unethical, ethical, really get unethical. Oh, damn, that's catchy.
Urge to kill rising.
Reed is here to suggest torturing the lone cock ammo they have in sickbay, but hell if Phlox will let anyone but him do the torturing around here. And so they must wait for Hoshi to do her thing. Unfortunately, Hoshi is too busy having a pissy girl fight because she thinks T'Pol is always mean to her.
You don't think I belong on Enterprise, do you?
Stop checking on my work and having me do things! I didn't sign up to be held accountable and have duties and stuff!
God, it's a wonder Vulcan stuck around for so long, because honestly, if I were T'Pol, I would be exhausted. I don't know, T'Pol was being hard on her because she's so smart or something. Whatever. This episode is about a giant space wad. I can't take any of this seriously. Oh, this is so sad. They're down so many crew members that Mayweather has the bridge. Like, how does that even happen? You know how many failures have to occur for him to get anywhere near management? Even he seems confused as to how he got here. I get that there's a semi-emergency going on, but literally T'Pol is just in the next room having a heart-to-heart with Hoshi. Mayweather is basically a Pokemon.
You hailed us?
Mayweather.
I'll call back later.
Mayweather. The Cretaceans learned English, as an aside, and the Enterprise thinks they might be able to help with this whole monster problem. They're eventually able to give them coordinates to this thing's homeworld, but first, Mayweather has to explain the situation.
Describe this organism.
If you say Mayweather, I swear to God
Weather?
We just learned English in like a day. If we can do it, so can you. So just describe the damn organism. It looks like fucking jizz, okay?
Actually, I take back everything I implied about Mayweather being useless, because as dumb as it was for them to leave him in charge of speaking to the Cretaceans by himself, he at least very quickly smoothed things over by apologizing, which is more than Archer was capable of the next time they met with these weirdos. Long story short, Hoshi did it. The main characters plus 2 or possibly 3, even though we don't ever see that security guy again, get splooged out. They collect the specimen with a giant Kleenex and return it home. The end. I left Vox Sola with many questions. Mainly, how did this creature make it to screen looking like this? Well, I can wonder no longer, because it turns out the Blu-rays include a behind the scenes for this episode. And honestly, I found it incredibly illuminating. Simply titled On the Set and hosted by Barry Kibrick, I got the feeling this was an episode of another television show that they included here, but I honestly don't know. Primarily focused on Vox Sola, it's also a spotlight on the process of making a television episode in general. If you have seen specials about the behind the scenes of television shows, you will be familiar with some of the broad strokes. The schedule is fast, there are many departments involved in making the show look and sound and feel great. There's a lot of hurdles to overcome in every production, and if it goes well, it all comes together into a tight 45-minute story fit for public consumption. Here's the thing about this, though. I think everyone was losing their minds during this episode. This whole special comes off like a cry for help. The host tries to frame it like, this is tough, but look at how their hard work pays off. But everyone just sounds so defeated. Director Roxann Dawson, aka B'Elanna from Voyager, is utterly confused how to make this monster work. The writers are like, this is all crap. Scott Bakula is describing how they keep getting unfinished scripts and everyone's tired at the end of the season. What is going on?
My initial reaction was panic.
There are days when I think pressure makes diamonds, and there are days when I think pressure makes crap.
Everything was going wrong in this episode. Brannon Braga was rewriting it as they were filming this behind the scenes. They didn't even get the 4th act until 4 days into shooting. So who knew how it was going to end? This is noted by Roxann Dawson, who says having that 4th act ahead of time would have been handy so they could plan things. And boy, did she have a lot on her plate.
She was very polite and professional about it. She does her job very well, but I know inside she was thinking, you son of a bitch.
Even if everything had gone completely smoothly, this was a really difficult alien to bring to life. According to Braga, the impetus of the entire episode was to create a wildly alien alien. They didn't want it to be a humanoid with weird stuff on their forehead. They wanted something crazy and out there. He saw a cover of an H.P. Lovecraft book with people wrapped up in webs and thought, that's it, that's the monster. So imagine you're Roxann Dawson. It's 2002. You're on a TV budget, and they're like, make us a big web tendril creature and get this episode out in a week. Also, you have no fourth act. Good luck!
Son of a bitch.
My biggest concern was that the creature would not look stupid.
Knowing the inspiration, I can see what they were going for. I can certainly view it as a web-like. But I think as soon as you start adding goop, it becomes less web and more, not. And this could have been any color. At any point, they could have been like, let's tint it blue or something. But no. And I think they kind of realized early on that this was not working because everyone struggles to describe it for half an hour.
Some strange substance.
Living linguini,
Tendrilless creature.
And I thought it was just a bunch of guys screwing around in a pool.
What it actually was melted saran wrap. I'm not kidding. They literally took hundreds of feet of saran wrap and melted them into giant sheets to place on set. I'm actually very impressed. That's incredible. And then they made saran wrap suits for the actors, covered them in goo, placed them in harnesses, and hung them from the ceiling for hours. What a shoot that must have been. I love TV. It took almost every department involved with the show to work on this alien because of how many different elements were involved. I'm super glad I watched this behind the scenes because I found it incredibly interesting. Not to mention, it made me appreciative of what went into what I think is generally agreed upon as a very mid-episode. Sometimes things just don't come together, and they certainly had a lot of things happening behind the scenes. But all that considered, they managed to pull off a competent episode that just so happens to feature an alien that sorta kinda looks like jizz. And that, I think, is a happy ending.